folks, we're back here in West Virginia, boots on the ground, and we're going to give you a little history of the Kanawha County and the history there behind some of the sightings and the encounters that have been taking place over the last 40 years. We'll show Paul and he'll give his introduction, and then we're going to go to various points of his property, points of interest where he's had activity, places where we found 2 burial mounds, numerous breaks. And to make a long story short, this gentleman knew he had activity on his property, and what happened was he was charged by a black bear, and a week later he saw something black by his trailer, assumed it was a black bear. He did not know what this was when he shot it, assuming it was a bear, but ended up shooting it, and at that point he realized this was a Sasquatch. So at that point, once this individual was shot and killed, this gentleman had numerous breaks on his property. I mean, they were snapping trees like twigs, throwing trees on his power lines, uprooting stuff. I mean, it was definitely a warning. These things were certainly agitated. They lost one of their own. It is my opinion that these things realized that they needed to make a truce with this gentleman. And here again, this is why this man was gifted with, first I think it was a beech tree, snapped off, twisted with beech nuts on it. And then recently, within the last month, they came up and they placed this piece of flint in the back of a vehicle on his property. If you look at the impression of the thumbprint on this, it's supersized. This rock has been purposely flint knapped to fit a hand. And the amazing part about this particular rock is when I examined it and looked at it in close detail, I realized that there was impressions of fingers. And there's 5 impressions of fingers and a thumb on this particular rock, which gives us our Nephilim connection. But this is the intro. This was given as a gift. My thought was so that they don't shoot any more of their kind out there. But he's since, I think, made peace with them, and we're going to let you hear the story, see the evidence, and you can decide what you will. If it's all right, folks, we're here again, boots on the ground in Kanawha County. We're interviewing a gentleman named Paul, and he's been gracious enough to invite us out and show us a lot of the things that have been going on his property. This has been an ongoing thing for probably the last 25 years. There's been a lot of history here. This gentleman has had and seen encounters which are unprecedented in 40 years of research that I've done. So we've come out to speak with this man, and he's going to show us a lot of the sign and the different things on his property. And here he is, Mr. Paul Phillips.
Yes, I live here in Kanawha County, and I've had Sasquatch on my property probably 20 years before I knew what they was or what it was about, and got a hold of Mike, and he's generously come down to take a look at some things. So we're going to look at some possible grave sites, rocks that's out of place, and all the Sasquatch signs.
Sounds like a plan,
guys.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this. All right, we're here at Paul's property, and what we found is this rock formation. This is not a natural formation that occurred by nature. These rocks were put here intentionally. They're stacked. It looks like it may be about a 6-foot circle, approximately. And here again, what do we find at the bottom? Some more signs of feeding. Now, it could be squirrel, could be chipmunk, but it could also be our uninvited guest as well. And looking at the size of those rocks, a human being could have put them there, but knowing the property owner and knowing that he didn't put him on there, and that there's no general people walking through this area.
60 or 70 feet from the pipeline.
So those were probably carried here and placed there, and then you have to ask yourself the $1 million question: why were they put here? This could very well be a burial mound. If it is, I would say it's probably just one individual. It's hard to say. Different areas in West Virginia, they've been known to stack rocks. And here again, the pioneers did it back in the day, but generally when they stacked it, They were stacking them as for protection against Indians or as a marker. The land at that time really wasn't farmed until the 1830s because the Indians wouldn't allow them to farm. Another tree here that's been purposely placed between these two. And again, we looked to see if it could have fallen naturally, but there's no place that they could have broken and fallen in between here. It was placed here. Just another sign here among many. All right, folks, we got another break here. It's side of a hillside here, and as I look at this thing, it's probably broken about 6 feet, and it's actually been twisted and bent over. So the weight of this end of the tree wouldn't be enough to break it over, to have enough gravity to pull this over. This was all done by hand, and that's probably it's not a low break. I call that probably a mid-sized break. But the thing that we notice on these is usually the direction that the broken piece is facing towards. It's significant. You know, whether this is where they're coming in and out, it could be a sign, obviously, of territory. But with these signs, sometimes it's hard to determine exactly what they mean. The Squatches know what they mean, and they leave them for other Squatches. All right, folks, we got another break here on this property. What we're finding is there's breaks and twists all over this place. What we've decided, or come to determination, that this is an habituation area. And what we mean by that, this is an area where they've been for many, many decades, and they've probably spent an elaborate amount of time. What we're seeing is some different X's. And these things all have a relevant meaning to the swamp. We're still out here on Mr. Phillips' property, and what we're finding is just sign after sign after sign. We're just going to do a call and just see if there's anybody home in the neighborhood, and see if our guest of honor might show up. Our guest of dishonor. I'm going to do a couple whoops, and then I'm going to try the Ohio howl. Dogs going.